want you to continue watching this review of Founders Day. Let's get into it. All right, so getting right into this, I'll be talking spoilers with this movie. I don't feel like there's too much really to spoil about this movie, even though it's a whodunit, I know. So if you want to see this movie and come on back, you don't want to get nothing spoiled, there you go. You've been warned. And as we always do in reviews, let's talk a little bit about this film before we review it. Founders Day is the newest slasher film from writer-director Eric Blomquist, and the plot synopsis reads, a series of ominous murders rock a small town just days before a heated mayoral election. As accusations fly and the threat of a masked killer darkens every corner, residents must race against time to uncover the truth. It just released in theaters today, January 19th, but I got to see an early showing yesterday, and woof! Trying desperately to pull the Scream and Purge crowd, Founders Day fails to capture any sort of intrigue throughout its runtime. Although my man here does look very generic, I will give it to him that his little gavel thing with the knife poking out of the bottom of it is a pretty cool weapon. It's a little inventive. The cast features Devin Druid from 13 Reasons Why, Amelia McCarthy, who's from like a bunch of Disney Channel original movies, William Russ from Boy Meets World, and director Eric Blomquist himself as Oliver. I really was not crazy about any of the performances in this movie that are just poorly directed and all over the place in terms of consistency. Jace Bartok here is probably the only person who's arguably consistent throughout this entire movie, but his performance is at the level of a middle school bully wearing an adult skin suit. His character, Harold Faulkner, is running against Blair Gadwell for mayor of this little weird town, with a bunch of weirdos running around in it. We'll get to those in a second, but there's one moment where Harold goes into her office. I have to adjust my hat. I can feel it falling. And he's like trying to intimidate her, literally like a middle school bully, takes her like name tag thing off of her desk, drops it on the ground and goes, oops. I'm like, what is going on here? Is this amateur hour? My God. There are so many ridiculous moments of this movie like that where I can't tell if it's the script that's making these people act this way or if the performances are just that bizarre. I'm usually good at nailing down like what I don't like about a movie, and if that's something that's just not for me and maybe some other people will like this, I don't think anyone's walking out of Founders Day saying that this is a banger. This is a 10 out of 10 movie. And if you really enjoyed it, of course, I respect your opinion, but man, this was such a skip. I can't believe I paid $10 for a ticket to see this movie. This to me felt like if someone made a fan film for the real Founders Day movie, but that movie doesn't exist apparently. We're introduced to our main final girl, Allison Chambers, who's played by Naomi Grace, when she's meeting up with her girlfriend, who just so happens to be the daughter of one of the candidates running in this mayoral election. This was my first taste at how bizarre this movie was about to get, because we get some whack dialogue between these two characters, as well as the ending of this sequence where the entire town essentially attacks Allison Chambers, who survives an encounter with the killer. Her girlfriend Melissa, who is once again the daughter of the person who's running for mayor, Harold Faulkner, gets killed by our main killer. Allison escapes the killer, runs back to where the town is having this protest, and they all just like surround her, and it's almost like a bunch of zombies ripping apart a human being they just found running down the road. I don't understand why this happened, but it did. Maybe they're like thinking to themselves, we gotta protect this girl, so let's surround her, but that's not the vibe this scene gave off to me. I really don't know what was trying to be conveyed here. The way some of these characters are written too is abysmal. Like you have these two characters who are bullies essentially. There's a lot of bullies in this movie too, which is very bizarre. It's this teenage couple that's running around harassing our main girl, totally ripping off a scene from Scream where they run down the hallway dressed as the killer and pretend to stab everybody with a fake knife. Now here's the thing about that. Founders Day takes that one little cool instance from Scream where the teenagers in high school are totally disrespecting how horrible the situation is, and they expand that into this lengthy scene that only pushes the plot forward a little bit, and hardly at that. It's way too long of a scene to get from that point A to point B, but let's talk about it. So it's set up exactly how I explained. Guy walks down the hallway dressed up as the killer. It's the bully, it's not the real killer. He's got a fake knife and he pretends to stab our basically main final girl with it, with her thinking it's a real knife. Then his girlfriend runs out into the hallway, jumps on him, and they start making out pretty much this close to boning in the middle of a hallway. A teacher comes out and starts yelling at them, and what do? They just keep going. What? The teacher gives them a Saturday detention, even though I think they should be going to juvie after all of this. I mean, that's arguably attempted murder and public nudity and, well, public public boning too, nearly there. Like, I mean, they're this close, man. Oh, and it doesn't stop there. We get to see the Saturday detention, which is of course leading up to the death of these horrible characters. The teacher character, who, mind you, this entire time has been pretty like soft-spoken and just like a good character. You're kind of rooting for him the entire time. He takes their phones, and Britt, the girl character, specifically says, "Don't be looking for my nudes on my phone," to which he replies with, "Oh, it's gonna be hard to resist." What? This character has not given me an inkling of a pervy vibe up until this moment. It is so bizarre. I mean, if this was real life, which this movie clearly does not take place in reality, this guy would get fired for saying that. It gets even more ridiculous though, because the teacher leaves detention, which I've been in detention before, and I will tell you, the teacher does not leave. You have to sit there quiet the entire time. It sucks. These two rascals are anything but quiet though, because they decide to start boning on the teacher's desk. They're just running up this list of sex crimes throughout this entire movie. It's ridiculous. They start boning on the desk, and the killer manifests behind them, almost like he just spawned into a video game. It's kind of like when you're playing Dead by Daylight, you're playing against Samara, and she just randomly crawls out of a TV right in front of you while you're trying to fix that goddamn generator. Except in this movie, the killer is not trying to sacrifice you to the entity. You just get killed in very schlocky, cheesy ways that once again feel fan film level. The best part of this scene though is the killer walks up behind the boyfriend character specifically, kills him. Britt, the girl here, gets up, runs out of the classroom, and yells, "I learned my lesson, Mr. Jackson." I gotta hand it to him. The alien dialogue is pretty hilarious at times. The one thing I will give this movie as a positive is there's this unceremonious midway twist, which doesn't really sound positive to call it unceremonious. About an hour into this one, they reveal who one of the killers is, which is a Scream theory that I've had for a long time about like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if one of the ghost faces got killed halfway through and our main characters here had some kind of clue as to who the other ghost face was. I've learned the hard way that this is something I never want to attempt in terms of writing. Founders Day is, in my opinion, the reason why Scream should never do that. They give you this like false ending to the movie about halfway through. Like, I genuinely thought the movie was over. Like, they caught the killer. They don't really talk about a second killer yet. It's the son of the mayor who's been acting like a bully the entire time. Shocker! Devin Druid is also like the highest billed cast member here, so that's also not really a big surprise. And then they play what feels like outro music to end the movie, but then it like fades to black and then it keeps going. It makes me wonder if this was the original ending of the movie, but they wanted to make it longer so that they could put it in theaters or something. I'm not sure. I don't even have anything else to say about this movie. Like, it's just bad. Skip it. It's not worth $10 to see in the theaters. Like, maybe if it was free on Tubi in a couple of months or something, check it out. But man, this is just not a good whodunit. I give Founders Day a 1 out of 10, and I can't believe this, but Night Swim is still #1 for me for 2024. Man, this has been a disappointing January, especially considering the last 2 years where we got some bangers, man. January movie releases in general are notoriously bad, but man, this year has been especially bad. I mean, think about this as well. In 2022, we got Scream 5, which was really good in my opinion. I enjoyed it. Last year, we got Megan and Infinity Pool in January of 2023, which both made my top 10 list of the entire year. And this year, oh my God. Night Swim was like a 3 out of 10. This was like a 1 out of 10. I'm really hoping that the rest of this year makes up for it, man. Founders Day was absolutely not for me, but what did you guys think about it? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this brand new review video. Don't forget to like it and subscribe for more horror content in the future. Please consider supporting me on Patreon as well by clicking on the link in the description below. And as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.